Hello and welcome to the Indie Mind video review for qrth-phyl. This uniquely named title comes to us from veteran developer hermitgames and is the first entry in the 2012 Indie Games Uprising. If you've been playing video games in the past 30 years, you're probably already halfway familiar with this particular game. qrth-phyl is a modern take on the classic Snake game. The new spin is the fact that the snake is no longer confined to two dimensions. Instead, you alternate between 2D outside areas and full 3D inside areas. But the objective is pretty much still the same. You collect cubes to rack up points for as long as possible before dying, and you'll die if you run into a wall, a laser barrier, or your own lengthening tail. Before I talk about some of the drawbacks to the game, I want to hit on some of the brighter points. The game has that addictive quality that's really inherent in classic arcade games. There's no actual end to qrth-phyl. You just simply play till you die and try to accumulate the highest score possible before that happens. And as you play, you'll eventually pick up on strategies for how best to survive and for racking up easy points where they can be found. qrth-phyl has an adaptive difficulty level that adjusts based on how you're performing. The better you do, the more obstacles the game's going to throw at you, and the tighter the distance between cubes and the walls will get. The technology was actually ported over from hermitgames' previous title called Leave Home, which also has made its way to Xbox Live Indie Games. The levels are randomized, which means no two playthroughs are going to be exactly the same. Like with Leave Home, this game was intended to be a short experience. And I know some people may not care for that, but I really appreciate the fact that I don't have to repeatedly play through the same 20, 30, or 40 levels to reach a point where I could possibly top my previous high score. Although the menus are a bit difficult to read, the rest of the presentation is actually really well done, and the music is, I would say, atmospheric, but not overpowering. I do have to touch on some of the bad points, though. The camera can be a real problem in this game. Because you're moving around a three-dimensional space where all sides of objects can't be seen, it can often happen that you turn a corner or round an edge and all of a sudden run into a wall. And this wall may be a case where you just don't remember it was there, but often it's actually spawned because of an increase in difficulty. This is really an ever-present concern that can, from time to time, dampen the fun. Every time you transition from an indoor to an outdoor area, you have no way of knowing the landscape of the area that will be presented to you. Even though there's a brief loading delay, there's really no time to adjust if a wall has been planted directly in your path. Unfortunately, it's really just an unlucky break that players are going to have to learn to deal with. And I wouldn't consider this a flaw so much as an omission, but the game really screams for a leaderboard of some kind. Even though it's been well documented that true online leaderboards are really difficult to pull off in Xbox Live Indie Games, it has been done. Even a friend's leaderboard would be sufficient in this case. Instead, players can only see the highest score achieved on their local system. I think this was a real missed opportunity here to use what made classic arcade games great, which is a scoring system that provides bragging rights. All problems aside, qrth-phyl is still a fun game to play. Some questionable design choices aren't enough to really dissuade me from recommending players give this one a try, and I ended up scoring the game 3 out of a possible 5 points. It's currently selling for 80 Microsoft points, or $1, in the Xbox Live Indie Games Marketplace. Thanks for watching, and for more indie content, be sure to check out theindiemind.com.